Hello, I'm Jim Mulhern, President and CEO of the National Milk Producers Federation. Thank you for watching this video discussing USDA's new Dairy Margin Coverage Program, the bedrock of the dairy safety net in the 2018 Farm Bill. This new Farm Bill will result in better, badly needed support for our industry this year and over the next several years to come. The improvements in the package were the result of the dairy producer community from coast to coast working together. Our dairy cooperative members in National Milk, along with state dairy associations like yours and many others across the country, and even the dairy processor community, worked together to achieve important policy improvements for our industry. As we all know, the Margin Protection Program for dairy that's been in effect from 2014 did not provide the safety net support that we were looking for. The new program, the Dairy Margin Coverage Program, or DMC, will provide much better coverage. I want to spend a few minutes walking through the major provisions of this package so you'll understand what's in the bill and that will help you make decisions when you're looking at sign-up later this year. So with that, let me launch into some of the discussion here of what are the key provisions of the new Dairy Margin Coverage Program. It's important to note that no other commodity fared as well as dairy did in this Farm Bill. That was out of necessity. We were able to demonstrate to Congress that MPP was not providing the type of support we needed, and we were able, through the United Dairy Industry effort that I mentioned, to make changes for this year and beyond that will help you and dairy farmers across the country. Let's talk about some of the key improvements in the bill. One of them, right off the bat, is the name of the program, changing from the old MPP program, which didn't live up to its name, frankly, to a program that offers a fresh start for dairy risk management coverage. The new Dairy Margin Coverage, or DMC, is going to provide significant improvements in at least 4 key areas. Number one, it improves the coverage level and the premium rate structure of the Margin Protection Program. As many of you know, we were able to make changes early last year in MPP to bring down the cost of coverage, but we weren't able to increase the coverage level above $8 per hundredweight at that time. We were able to do so in this Farm Bill. The second improvement to note is that the premiums will be lower, and you will get a refund of past premiums you've paid in. Since the MPP did not live up to expectations, Congress enacted a provision providing net refunds, so any payments made into MPP that exceeded payments that were made will be refunded this year and possibly carried over into future years. The bill also slashes premiums on catastrophic coverage levels that will be beneficial to larger producers who may want to use the DMC program to protect their operation from the kind of catastrophic downside risk we experienced when you go look back to 2009. In addition, the bill eliminates the restrictions that were in place on covering milk in the margin program and in the Livestock Gross Margin Program, or LGM, at the same time. Now, producers will be able to sign up for the DMC program, the Dairy Margin Coverage Program, as well as LGM, or the Farm Bureau's new Dairy Revenue Protection Program that was approved last year by USDA's Risk Management Agency. Let me move to the margin coverage thresholds in the new program. As you know, in the previous program, you were able to cover margins from $4, that was the catastrophic floor level, up to a maximum level of $8 per hundredweight. And because of the way the formula was changed during the Farm Bill negotiations in 2014, that formula did not reflect the true cost of feed on a dairy operation. We've been able to address that in this new Farm Bill with a new coverage ceiling that's been raised from $8 now up to $9.50 per hundredweight. These changes will give you the ability to buy higher level coverage at a much lower cost than under the previous program. This improvement is going to provide substantial advances over what we saw last year when we saw significant payments by USDA at the $8 level. The increase to $9.50 will be a big help this year and beyond. Now, when you look at the current futures forecast for this year, that $9.50 coverage means that farms that sign up at that level will receive coverage in the program for most months of 2019 because we're looking at margins that are, at least at this point in the year, projected to be above $8 but below $9.50 for much of the year. The program also gives farms with production of more than 5 million pounds greater coverage flexibility. You will be able to choose your coverage up to $9.50 on your first 5 million pounds, and then choose another level of coverage for your Tier 2 production above 5 million pounds. So all producers will be able to cover their first 5 million pounds in Tier 1, and then producers who have production above 5 million pounds can put that into Tier 2. Let's look more at how much coverage can be covered and at what level. Producers will now be able to cover up to 95% of their production history. That's an increase from the 90% level that was in the margin protection program. We've also lowered the minimum level of coverage to 5% from what had been 25% in the MPP. The important thing there is for larger producers, going to a 5% minimum, that gives the ability for everybody who is producing under 100 million pounds of milk, and that's about 99% of U.S. dairy farmers, they can cover their first 5 million pounds in that Tier 1 coverage, and then have a varying level of coverage for production above that level. Let me now turn to look at the new premiums on this table that you see. You don't have to memorize it. It's all available along with many other materials we've provided on our website at www.nmpf.org. But I want to focus your attention on just a couple of the levels here. If you look at the upper left-hand corner, that coverage at $9.50, and then you follow that line across, you can see that the premium cost at that level is 15 cents per hundredweight if you sign up on an annual basis. And if you sign up at $9.50 for the 5 years of the Farm Bill, that premium will be discounted to 11.3 cents, a 25% reduction. So you can see there's an advantage to signing up at $9.50 for 5 years. I don't want to quite say that it's a no-brainer, but that is probably the recommended level for many producers. If you look back over the last 5 years, we've been under that margin level more often than not. So locking in at the $9.50 coverage for 5 years is going to be effective coverage at an affordable price, a level that will likely more than pay for itself over that time. I'd also encourage you to take a look toward the bottom of the chart at that $5 level. You could potentially consider that a new catastrophic coverage floor for milk in Tier 2. You can see that at the $5 floor for Tier 2, the cost of coverage on an annual basis is a half a cent per hundredweight. Coverage is still free at the $4 level underneath that, so if you go down to the 4, you'll see coverage there is still free, and many producers may opt for that. But we've been able to lower the rate for $5 coverage by 88%. So signing up for $5 coverage at a half a cent means that if we ever have another 2009 type situation where margins in that period drop to under $3 per hundredweight, that half a cent would mean much more effective margin coverage. So affordable coverage for Tier 1 and Tier 2 makes this a much better program now as we look to the future. Let me talk a little bit now about the expanded flexibility in the program. One of the provisions in the Farm Bill that would be helpful is the refund of premiums that were paid from 2014 to 2017 that I talked about earlier. That refund will be applied as a 75% credit on your net premiums for people who sign up going forward. If you don't sign up for the program, if you don't get into DMC, producers are still eligible for a 50% refund of premiums paid during the 2014 to 2017 period. Now that 75% credit can be applied to your 2019 sign-up, and we're asking USDA to carry any credit over into future years if it isn't all used to offset 2019 premiums. Another way that the Dairy Margin Coverage Program becomes more useful than the MPP program is that farmers can use it in conjunction with other USDA dairy risk management tools. Now you can actually cover the same milk in the Dairy Margin Coverage Program, the LGM program, or Dairy Revenue Protection, and you can be involved in all three programs at the same time if you wish. The one restriction is that you can't cover the same milk in both LGM and dairy RP at the same time. Turning to the program's implementation timeline, here are some key dates to remember as it is phased in during the first half of 2019. According to USDA, program sign-up will begin on June 17, with the first payments to producers coming as soon as July 8th. March 18 is also a key date. That's when producers who couldn't access the improved MPP program last year because they were already enrolled in the Livestock Gross Margin or LGM dairy program, they can start signing up retroactively for 2018 MPP coverage. April 15th is also an important date, and not just to file your taxes. April 15th is when a new producer decision tool for the Dairy Margin Coverage Program is expected to become available through USDA. And on April 30th, producers should find out about the level of refunds of their previously paid MPP premiums that will be made available to them. And finally, it's going to be very important that the two agencies in USDA that are involved in this dairy risk management assistance, that they're working together on implementation of the new programs. We'll need both the Farm Service Agency, which will be responsible for the Dairy Margin Coverage Program, as well as USDA's Risk Management Agency, which manages the LGM and the Dairy RP programs. We'll need them working together to provide the best information to dairy farmers on the interaction among these three programs. We'll also need a robust decision-making tool that will help farmers understand what's the best for their farm operation. This program is, in my view, less complicated than the past program in terms of the decision to sign up at $9.50, for example, for Tier 1 coverage. But the real decision becomes what to do on Tier 2 coverage, what level to sign up for, tied to a calculation on the various costs at that level. Let me close with this slide here that has a lot of useful information that can be applied on what decisions to make based on the conditions we're facing. Looking at the chart, the red line shows the actual margin that we've experienced going back to 2015. That green line across the middle shows you what the coverage was until we passed this new Farm Bill, going from $8 over the past 4 years to the new $9.50 level for this year and the next 5 years. And then the dashed lines you see on the far right show you the forecast for the margin in 2019. The USDA margin tool forecast, as well as our own forecast based on the CME futures market. And what you see there is that the margin, in both cases, projections for 2019, is going to be above $8, but below $9.50 per hundredweight for much of the year. This is the kind of information that will be helpful to you as you make your decisions at sign-up time. Now clearly, there is better support for dairy farmers across the country than we've had for the past several years. It's been a tough few years. I want you to know we're doing everything we can, from supporting our dairy exports through the CWT Export Assistance Program to our extensive efforts on the policy front, trying to improve the market situation. But the changes to the dairy safety net made in the Farm Bill will provide what we've been looking for in needing meaningful support while we're working toward improving prices in the marketplace. The new Dairy Margin Coverage Program and the additional risk management tools in the Farm Bill will be more effective in providing support that you and others in our industry need for this year and beyond.